I made a video a while back where I came to the conclusion that the ATEM Mini was a mistake to use for church live streaming. And I got a lot of feedback on that video. I got some comments that were just angry, some angry people. I don't know why they were angry because of my opinion. And then I got a lot of comments from people saying that they actually used the ATEM Mini for their church live streams and that they loved it. So I decided to go back and rethink the ATEM Mini and just see if maybe there was something I was missing, maybe if there was a use case that I hadn't been able to imagine when I was first reviewing the product. And I'm surprised to say that I've actually changed my mind about using the ATEM Mini for church, kind of. So in this video, we're going to re-examine the pros and the cons of using the ATEM Mini for church video and live streaming. And I'm also going to tell you why I'm thinking of replacing our streaming PC with the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. We're going to talk about all of that in today's video. So I've been playing with the ATEM Mini Pro, and I've been looking at it from a church standpoint and trying to audit and find out why people liked it so much and how I would use it if it was me, if I had to use it and I couldn't use a streaming PC. And I've spent hours exploring its features, its pros, its cons, finding ways to try to get around the drawbacks that I saw of switching from like OBS or vMix and using the ATEM Mini. And what I can tell you is that I've actually discovered a lot of things about how churches can use this and how I would use it for my own church. And so I'm going to show basically what I think about it now after having time to really explore the features that the ATEM Mini Pro and Pro ISO bring. I will say from the very beginning that I still don't like using the ATEM Mini for church streaming, because with the ATEM Mini, you're going to need an encoder. You're going to need either OBS or vMix or Ecamm, something like that. And then if you have 4 cameras and you're coming in through the ATEM Mini, it basically tells all of those software programs that you have one camera source. Even though you can switch between all 4 cameras, you can't use the software as it's meant to be used. Now, if you already have the ATEM Mini, it's still viable. I mean, it's a good product. I'm not dissing the product at all. I'm just saying if you're looking at buying now and you're looking at between the ATEM Mini Pro and ISO, I would go with the Pro or ISO. I would not use the Mini, and I'll talk about why in a minute. But I've been playing with this for quite a bit, and we're going to look at the pros and cons of the Pro and the Pro ISO version when it comes to church streaming. But first, we're going to have a word from our sponsor, which is ourselves. If you're looking to equip your church for live streaming, check out our website at churchsetup.com. We provide full all-in-one live streaming kits specifically designed for church video production and live streaming, and we have kits that can match just about any budget. We have kits with 1 camera, 2 camera, all the way up to 4 camera kits. We have PTZ cameras, we have ATEM Mini kits, we have full-blown streaming PC kits, just about anything you want. So go to churchsetup.com today and you can find solutions for all of your church video and live streaming needs. All right, so let's explore the pros and the cons of the ATEM Mini Pro and the ATEM Mini Pro ISO when it comes to using them for, say, church live streaming. And there's a few cons that we want to talk about first. Let's talk about the negatives, the drawbacks. The first drawback that was a big deal breaker for me originally and is still kind of frustrating is that there's no native video functionality. So in OBS or vMix, I can load up a video. When I want it to play, I can push a single button on my Stream Deck or my keyboard and it plays with audio. It's super easy. But with the ATEM Mini, you can only really do stills, especially if you're using it out of the box, which most people are going to be using it out of the box. I've seen people on YouTube saying you can kind of hack it and you can get videos to play on there. But if you want just native functionality to play videos, you won't get that with the ATEM Mini Pro or even the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. The second con is that there's no animated overlays. Because you are stuck using stills, you have no ability to use animated overlays. You can't do like lower third animations. You can't do like, video file for a lower third. You're basically stuck with still images. The other thing that I didn't like about it is that with OBS and vMix and Ecamm, I can pull in alerts from like YouTube or Facebook if someone subscribes or leaves a super chat or something like that. But the reality is that you're not going to use those for your church live stream anyway, most of the time. Like, I don't know of any church that would actually want alerts with super chats coming up, people paying $2 and then putting whatever they want on your screen. So it's not really a big deal. It's a con in that you can't use it for like normal live streaming. If you're a video gamer, or maybe you're doing things from your office like this, maybe it's a con. But to me, I'm like, you know what? There's really no use case for that in churches anyway. So I say it's a con, but it's, take that with a grain of salt. It's not really that big of a deal. vMix, OBS, because it's software based, you can add just about any feature that you want, and you don't have to have another physical button or another physical thing happening with a controller. With that said, when it comes to church streaming, and this is where I had to have a big shift in my thinking, when it comes to streaming church services, recording church services, you're not going to use all of that functionality. So if there's anybody in the world that wants all of the bells and whistles when it comes to their video setup and everything, it's me. I want the ability to do everything and anything that I want to do. What I found, though, is that going back, over all of the live streams that we've been doing over the past year even, I've never used any of those advanced features in OBS or vMix, not once in a church live stream. There's a few things that I do in a church live stream. I want the ability to play my countdown video to start the stream. I want the ability to show sermon slides and scripture slides. I want the ability to show the lyrics for the songs that we're singing if I want. And then I want the ability to show all the camera angles, and then to have maybe a finishing video at the end or a slide at the end. That's really the functionality that I want. And what I have found is that all of that functionality that I actually use can be done with the Stream Deck, with a small caveat. But I mean, all of it can be done with the ATEM Mini Pro or the ATEM Mini Pro ISO very, very easily. So those are three cons, and they're not really that big of a con now that I rethink it. So let's talk about the benefits or the advantages of using the ATEM Mini Pro. Okay. The first advantage is that the ATEM Mini is tiny. It's not near the footprint of a full PC with a tower, monitor, keyboard. Now, you will have a monitor with this if you want to use the preview and program view, the multi-view, which looks like this. If you want to see this, which I highly recommend, you will need a monitor. But really, it's so tiny in its footprint. So that's a huge benefit for me. Number two is that it's really easy to set up. You plug in your cameras and they just work. So there's no dealing with codecs, and there's no dealing with, making sure your frame rates and all of that. When you plug it in, they pretty much just work. And you have 4 inputs. You have 2 audio inputs. You have the HDMI out for your monitor. You have the USB out, which I'm currently using it to record into Ecamm right now. But in a normal church setting, I would actually have a hard drive set up for this to record. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it's just easy to use. So the first 3 benefits are number 1, it's tiny. Number 2, it's easy just to plug in the cameras. And number 3, and it really just becomes very easy to use. The fourth thing that I want to talk about is that it is remote controllable. And this was a huge thing for me. So when I was using my streaming PC with the Stream Deck, I actually would use the Stream Deck mobile app on my phone to control the stream from wherever I was in the sanctuary. However, with the ATEM Mini, there are apps that you can use. So going over here to this camera view, you can see I've got my iPad app set up here. And I'm going to show the multi-view so that you can see what I'm doing. But you can see here in the app that I've got program up here and I've got preview down here. So I'm going to switch over and let you see the multi-view. And when you see, I'm going to use the preview first. So what you're going to see is this window over here in preview. The camera angles are going to change. I can see this one. I can see that one. I can see this one. And I can use camera 4. I actually talk about why I don't have a camera plugged into camera 4. But I can preview all the different camera angles there with this remote control if I want to, or I can just change the what's going out to the live stream. So what's under program here is what the live stream is actually seeing. And so I can change just with this mobile app. Now, this is really important to me because in my church, I don't have a volunteer running the stream. So it's important to me because I can just get out the mobile app and I can control it from wherever I am. If I'm at the pulpit preaching, I can still control the stream. I can switch cameras if I want. I can show the overhead view, my sermon slides and everything just by using the mobile app. I don't have to physically be at the ATEM Mini to run it, which is a huge, huge bonus. Let's talk about the fifth advantage is that it's more mobile than a computer. So if you wanted to run out and do a stream or a recording somewhere else, you could actually just grab the ATEM Mini, unplug all its wires, take it somewhere else, plug it back in, and it's ready to go. It's not as easy to move a huge computer. And the last advantage of the ATEM Mini Pro and ISO, and probably the ATEM Mini as well. But if you use Blackmagic cameras, if you use like the Pocket Cinema camera or the 4K or the 6K, and probably if you use any of their other bigger cameras, you get functionality to control the camera from a computer. So the camera actually has to be connected to the ATEM Mini Pro or ISO, but you can go into the app and you can actually go into the app and click over to camera. And you can see here, if you look at camera 1, camera 2 is my Blackmagic camera. You have the ability to operate the brightness, using this. You can do the brightness with a gain there. This is your shutter control. This is gain. Your white balance. If you have mechanical zoom, you can zoom in and out. You can change the focus or go back to autofocus. You got all of this control. You can either do color correcting if you wanted to do any kind of color, what do you call that? I can't remember off the top of my head, but all you have to do is have it connected to the ATEM and use the ATEM software, and you can actually control your cameras. If you have a mechanical zoom, you could actually zoom in and out. And if you have multiple cameras like that, it basically turns your Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras into PTZ cameras without the pan and the tilt. You have the zoom, right? So you can do a lot of camera control if you're using the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras, which, you don't have to, but that's another advantage of using the ATEM Mini. Now, why am I thinking about, and probably more than thinking, I'm actually going to do this. Why am I going to replace my streaming PC in my church with the ATEM Mini Pro ISO? Like I said, one of the biggest deal breakers for using the ATEM Mini for me was that it had no native video functionality. One thing that I've noticed is that even with all of the functionality of OBS and all of the functionality of vMix or Ecamm, I wasn't playing videos on my live stream that I didn't also have going to the screens in the sanctuary. And so rather than trying to run them separately anyway, all I did was connect my projector computer up to my live streaming computer. And then whenever I would play something on the projector, it would automatically play on the stream. I realized that if I only have a 3-camera setup, I can just use this fourth input and come off a splitter, and whatever I'm showing on my projectors would come into camera number 4. And so if I wanted to play a video file, I would just switch over to camera number 4 and play it on the projector. If I wanted to play my sermon slide, all I got to do is show camera number 4. If I want to play the scriptures or the lyrics or anything like that, especially using Pro Presenter, I can just come into the HDMI input for camera 4, and I can have all 3 cameras that are showing my sanctuary, but then I have a 4th camera, which is basically the same thing that is showing on my projector screen. Now you can do with like Pro Presenter, you could do a custom output for that, and you could control, the different, if you're showing lyrics, for example, you wouldn't have them full screen. You might want them lower thirds. You could do all of that through Pro Presenter. That's kind of getting advanced, but the bottom line is that it's able to be done, and it's really easy. And so you can have more flexibility if you wanted with OBS or vMix, but for the way that I actually run my stream, it'll be no different. So there's no reason for me to have all the advanced flexibility of OBS because I don't use it anyway. The second reason why I'm thinking about switching to the ATEM Mini Pro ISO is that it allows me to record and stream at the same time. Now, you can do this with OBS, you can do this with vMix, but there's always been a problem when I was doing that. I had to dial in the settings, especially with OBS. One thing that I noticed is that if I'm going to record and I'm going to stream, if I had the same encoder going for both, that it would drop frames like crazy. And maybe it was, maybe there's somebody out there that can dial that in and not have that problem. But that's one of the reasons I started using vMix, because vMix didn't seem to have that problem and I didn't have to do any kind of custom settings or whatever to figure it out. However, with the ATEM Mini Pro, I can hook up one of these things. This is an external hard drive that connects USB-C. I can basically plug it into the USB port there. And then whenever I am live streaming, all I got to do is hit record and it will record to the disk. Now I said I'm going to use the ATEM Mini Pro ISO instead of the Pro. The difference between the Pro and the ISO is that the Pro will record whatever your live stream sees, but you get a very high quality recording of your stream. With the Pro ISO, the advantage of the ISO over the Pro is that it will record all 4 of these inputs as a separate video file at the same time. So if I have this plugged in, it will record all 4 of these as separate video files. Then I can take my church live stream and put all 4 of those files into like Final Cut Pro and then mix my stream again. So if, for example, there's been times where I've forgotten to switch the cameras and I'll have the camera on the music, for example, and then I go up to the pulpit and I'm talking. People on the live stream are like, can't see, because the camera is pointing off at the keyboard. Nobody's there. So if I make that mistake with a live stream, it's live. That's the downside of live. However, if I am recording all of these things separately, I can go back and make a YouTube video version of this live stream. I can remove the live stream from YouTube and I can upload a video version of that where I've remixed it, and I can fix that problem. I can fix that mistake because now I'm not switching between camera views. I have all camera views recorded and I can just go in and edit it however I want. That is a huge bonus. And that's why I think we're going to switch over to the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, because I can hook a hard drive up to this. I can stream directly to our live stream from there. I can see the multi-view if I want to monitor it. I can control everything remotely, and I get 3 cameras. I get my multimedia in, 1 audio source from my mixer, and everything is just set up. Another benefit of this mobile app, which you can't really see, is that it's also giving me an audio monitor, which has been another thing, because there's been times where I've had something muted and I didn't know it because I'm actually preaching and trying to run the live stream at the same time. And I just didn't know that my microphone was muted to the live stream. And with this, I can just look down at the remote control and I can see that, hey, there's no audio coming, and then, I can fix it right there. And so what we've done is we've started building kits for our customers. Before now, we haven't used the ATEM Mini in any of our kits because didn't believe in it. But now that we've had time to rethink it, we're like, you know what? Churches could actually use this. It's cheaper than a streaming computer. It's got a smaller profile than a streaming computer. It's easier to use and learn than a streaming computer. So we've built a bunch of kits. So if you're thinking about adding live streaming to your church, I recommend going to churchsetup.com, checking out the kits. Now, Blackmagic is not a sponsor of this video. I just think that, now that I've had a chance to play with it, and now that I've had a chance to audit how I actually do church streaming, the actual workflow and the things that I'm doing in the stream, all of the added flexibility of the software I don't actually use. For 90% of the churches, it's perfect. For the other 10%, you're probably using something bigger than an ATEM Mini anyway. So that's my second review and why I'm thinking about actually switching to using the ATEM Mini Pro ISO in our church. Hopefully that was helpful. If you are searching for the ATEM Mini Pro or trying to figure out if you should use it or not, hopefully that video helped you. If you have any questions, you can always send it to me or leave them in the comments. And I actually want to know if you use the ATEM Mini or the Pro or the ISO in your church. What's your experience? Do you like it? Is there any drawbacks that you see, after using it for a while? Is there anything you wish it had that it doesn't, or anything that you wish you could do that you can't? Leave those points for me in the comments. I would love to see them. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and hopefully you'll subscribe to this channel, share it with your friends, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.